I'll try to keep the story brief as I have this memory burned into my brain with great detail. I'll try to summarize. I was about 6 or 7 years old and my mom and I were on a routine grocery run to our local Walmart. I remember getting out of the car and walking up to the entrance. We had parked sort of in the back, so we had to walk a little to the front. As we walk up, I see a homeless man asking for change from every person that walks by. He asked the woman in front of us for change, and as she turns him down, he scoffs and begins to say something rude at the woman. My mother and I walked past him with haste to avoid conflict as he seemed to be extremely agitated. We get inside and get our groceries, and everything is fine. As we load up and begin to leave, I remember my mom pulling out $2 to specifically give the man as he is presumably still at the entrance begging. My mother, trying to avoid conflict, wants to hand him the money and be on our way so we don't end up getting her ass at the woman before us did. As we walk out, I raise my arm to the mother in little kid fashion to be picked up as I'm scared of the encounter we are about to have with the man. My mother picks me up and we begin to leave the store. Before the man can even ask for money, my mother hands him the cash and we walk away conflict free. I am being held by my mother at this point with my head facing behind her. As we are about halfway to our car, I look up from the pavement and look at the man who is staring directly at me with the most sinister face. His features are distorted, what I can only describe as demonic. He is smiling and sticking his tongue out almost to his chest. What the fuck? He lets out a long hiss as his eyes roll into the back of his head, seemingly invisible to the other people passing him. I still to this day do not understand how I was so far away, but I heard his hiss as if it was right next to my ear. I'm sure it could be dismissed as a homeless guy was on drugs, but I truly think this was a demon. Messed me up for a really long time until this day is a big factor in my belief of the paranormal. So, short backstory. My family spent most of our life growing up on a ranch in the middle of the desert here in Arizona. My brother, my cousin, my grandmother, my grandfather, father, and myself all seen two little girls out there that died in the 30s. We've all seen them, can all describe exactly what they look like to each other. Other weird afterlife-based stuff has happened there too. I was a deep skeptic until my 20s when we started seeing something else. Not relevant to what I need help with, but the native family members of my talk about there had been a walker out there. And from what I know, I and others have seen together it fit. I've also had years of weird stuff occur while camping or hunting in the forest, with 24 different witnesses, but again unrelated. I now live in the city and my wife has had night terrors for the last year and a half. Never before that. My middle daughter has started sleepwalking and all fairly unconscious stuff to begin with, but it progressed over time. Over the past 2 months, my wife had nightly dreams of people being in our room. Her and I have shared dreams about something along the lines of a succubus coming after me. I have nightmares inside of nightmares inside of nightmares that I can't escape from the present. We are awoken by talking and we both hear the same words. My daughter will wake up screaming. Dogs are locked in rooms and bathrooms when we come home. Not just with the door shut, actually locked in different rooms. Pictures and paintings of crosses get knocked off the walls in the middle of the night. My wife thought I was reading too much into it and has tried to rationalize it. I took some measures I'm familiar with to try to see if it eased the events last week. Nothing has occurred inside the house since then, but my dog bark at nothing through the glass door to the patio. There's a giant black cat we've never seen before that sits in our courtyard the last 3 nights and stares into our kitchen window for an hour. My 6-year-old saw a blue man trying to walk through the sliding glass door last night. I woke up this morning to find 11 dead dogs outside of our house. 6 missing their heads, 5 with their necks turned and broken. Oh my God. No evidence of animals feeding on them. The house had been quiet inside, but it seemed to have gotten more bizarre outside. Have I made things worse? Is there a way to end this? Am I jumping to conclusions? I feel nuts, but it feels like an assault on our home. Anyone? So they lived in Connecticut, and it's where I grew up. This happened when I was like 14. It was either right after Ed Warren passed away or not too long after. Me and my dad were staying at my aunt's house one night. It was a 2-family house, so her and my uncle as well as my cousin, her husband, and their 2 children all lived there. It was a new house they had just built and moved into a couple of months back. I found this part out later. Leading up to that night, my aunt was having crazy dreams where a little boy would appear in her dreams every night, or so she thought they were dreams, and lead her out of the bed. My aunt said that the outside of the house was a very bright light that shone through the window to the point where she couldn't see anything outside, and the little boy would try to lead her outside. My aunt would always be found in the morning by my uncle around the house, passed out on the bathroom floor, living room, and even the garage one time. They just assumed my aunt was sleepwalking. So anyway, that night, about 2 a.m. or so, everyone hears this loud screaming coming from upstairs living room. Me and my dad, my aunt, and uncle all wake up and run up the stairs because it sounded like someone was hurt. We get up in there, and my cousin and her husband are in the living room, and my cousin's son, who was about 2 years younger than me, was sitting in a rocking chair. His back was to us. But my cousin and husband were freaking out. So my dad and uncle walked over to my cousin, and we went to see what was wrong. My uncle touched his shoulder, and he turned his head around, and it was bright red. His eyes were bloodshot, and his skin was starting to turn this weird grayish color. What the hell? When they tried asking him what was wrong, he started speaking in Latin and was rocking in the chair back and forth. Now he was known as kind of a prankster, so my uncle and my cousin's husband, thinking he was playing around, yelled at him to stop and went to grab him out of the chair. When they touched him, that time he let out a loud scream again in Latin. His eyes started to roll in the back of his head. Oh my God. We are all freaking out at this point, not knowing what to do. My cousin went and got a glass of water, thinking maybe he's sleepwalking, and threw it on him, and he just laughed in his deep voice. The fuck? My aunt was a pretty holy woman. She would keep crosses and angel statues and even holy water in the house, so she ran back downstairs to get the holy water because at this point, we realized something weird was going on. My dad and my uncle grabbed him out of the chair. He was kicking and trying to fight them the whole time and held him on the floor. My aunt bent over the holy water and rubbed it on her head. My little cousin lifted his shirt up while he was being held down, and my aunt placed her hand on his back. It literally burned him. It left a burn mark the exact size of her hand on his back. He screamed and screamed for a couple of seconds before he ended up passing out. I'm just standing there the whole time, absolutely terrified, not moving, just watching all this happen. So he's passed out and not knowing what to do. They call the police. It's probably around 3 a.m. at this point. So the police come with the paramedics and talk to us all, and the medics check out my second cousin to see if he's okay. He ended up waking up, and they said he was fine, save the burn mark on his back. Not knowing what to do, the police recommended that they give Miss Warren a call, since she was a famous paranormal investigator and lived right in Connecticut. So nobody ended up going to bed at all, and me and my dad leave early later that morning. Now this next part I wasn't there for. About a week later, my aunt gives Miss Warren a call, tells her that what happened, and invites her to the house. Apparently Lorraine knew what the house was about before she even stepped foot in there. Apparently the newly built house was built on land that housed some kind of portal to another dimension. The little boy in my aunt's dream was trying to leave my aunt outside through the portal, because if a human entered the portal, it would be open enough for demons to constantly go through. Apparently, one got through and was able to possess my second cousin because he wasn't strong enough to fight it. Well, Lorraine ended up doing this whole seance and cleansing of the house to get rid of it and closed it permanently. They ended up living in the house for about another 8 years without any problems ever again before selling it and moving out of state. I never stayed over there again. To the day that night still haunts me.